I love big cozy woolly blankets, and there's nothing better than stash busting all your yarns. So let's dive into the Brioche Break blanket and learn how to stash bust and marl our yarns together. The Brioche Break blanket continues my series of marled garter stitch with little brioche ribbed breaks. This one is included in the Brioche Break ebook that just came out. So that has the Brioche Break sweater and cardigan. There's a hat, socks, cowl, and a shawl. So you can have all these brioche marled accessories. And now there's a big blanket. So whenever you're working on your sweaters and shawl projects, you've always got some leftover yarns. So every now and then I mix together lots of single skeins and marled leftovers, and you can make these big, beautiful, creative collages with your leftover yarn scraps. So all of this was done with single skeins and small bits of West Wool Bicycle. This is our non-superwash fingering weight wool, and I really love working with these types of wools for blankets and sweaters because they give you that structure to the fabric. It's not too drapey. It has a beautiful squish and structured oomph quality to the fabric. So it begins in the center. So with the Brioche Break blanket, I wanted to design this modular style so that you could stop early if you're running out of yarn, or if you want to make a baby blanket size, then you could just stop early after knitting a few modular sections on each side. But you begin in the center with garter stitch. So you always hold 2 strands of yarn together, starting with this simple garter stitch rectangle, and then you pick up stitches on each side. And in the pattern, I called them the north side, the south side, the east side, and the west side. So you have these 4 sides that you're picking up stitches from, and then you just keep going. It's like that log cabin style of construction where you're adding the modular sections bit by bit, and it grows larger and larger as you add stitches to your project. So I love that feeling of center outward construction, because if you're feeling the colorful love, just keep on going for this large size Brioche Break blanket. You can make it as big as you want, or if you're cutting it close on your yarns or feeling like you're just ready to bind off early, you can bind off after any pattern repeat. So after repeating any cycle of the 4 sides, just bind off with the I-cord bind off and enjoy your Stash Buster blanket. So let's dive into some of the color combos. This is quite a wild combination with a rainbow palette of colors, and this is a really fun way to just mix any types of colors together, and you can get creative by mixing similar tones together, like mixing your greens. There was a moment in the blanket I mixed the green olive and the Dijon colorway together. So it's 2 strands of fingering weight always held together. The first thing you do is the garter stitch in the middle, and then after your garter stitch sections, there's a little brioche break. So it's 2 color brioche ribbing. It's a nice reversible. This is what the wrong side of the blanket looks like. So very reversible with garter stitch and brioche. It looks great on both sides. And the brioche ribbing, it interlocks the marled color combos. So when you have one combo for the garter stitch, when you do the Brioche Break to the next section, you get a new color combo as the background color. So I love mixing and marling. You could do 2 different types of colors, so don't worry about it always having to be a matchy-matchy kind of marl. You could get an orange and a blue and marl those together. I did that right here. Towards the end, you get these really fun warm and cool mixtures, or you could do a light and a dark together. This is our Canal House colorway and the Unicorn colorway, and that looks like this high contrast effect there with the gray and the purple. So you can get this really static effect when you go high contrast with your combos, or the colors can blend a little bit more when you have 2 colors that are kind of similar, like this really dark brown red and the bright red. They're a very similar family. The bright blue and the dark blue also blend together a bit, and then other sections can have that high contrast, like a white peachy color and a dark purple right there. It almost looks black, that purple. So you can get these really cool friction static effects. So go wild with your stash. There's very small amounts of yarn used at the beginning, so the best way to guesstimate how much yarn you need for your particular types of yarn and which section you put them on is just start weighing your yarn. So when you're working on the project, have a little kitchen scale handy, and you could weigh some of your yarns before you do a section. So, I want to do this brown and yellow together. So weigh how much you have of each of those before you knit, and then do a section with those colors, and then weigh them after you knit. So maybe they weigh 40 grams before you knit, and after the section, they might weigh 30 grams. So you know that you used 10 grams for that section. And then that will give you a good idea that you're going to need about that much for the next section, but maybe an extra 2 grams more. So every section uses a little bit more yarn because you're growing and increasing your stitches outward. So if you know for this section here on this west side of the blanket, if you know that used 10 grams of yarn, then the next section is going to use at least 10 grams, but I would say maybe 12 or 13 to be safe. So that gives you a good ballpark estimate so that you can weigh your yarns as you go and go, oh yeah, I think I'm gonna have plenty of yarn. Or maybe you're weighing your yarn and going, I think I'm gonna need maybe 15 grams for this big section, but I only have 10 grams of yarn. So don't use it. So just make sure you have more than enough when you're getting out to these big sections, because they get quite long at the very end. So a kitchen scale will come in real handy for just making sure for your yarn types you've got plenty of yarn. But in the beginning, you can use these small amounts. So these little half skeins or just 10 grams of a color are going to be plenty for the early sections. But for the later ones, the really big sections at the end, you might need 20 or 30 grams just to be safe. So the bigger balls. But it's so much fun. I recommend arranging your colors first for the brioche break blanket. Like put your warm colors and cool colors together. Like the cools over here and my warm ones over here. And that can help organize and start giving you a strategy. So you can plan your palette out from the beginning, but I just cast on and started experimenting. And that's a really fun way to make these stash buster blankets. Don't plan it too much. It's all about utilizing what you have and finding these fun accidental color combos. So like I've got this bright red, but what happens if I put it with the turquoise? So you can go bold with some of your combos and let the nature of your yarn collection guide the vibe of the blanket, okay? You don't gotta force the colors too much, but let it be a celebration of all those collectible yarns that you've used in your shawls and sweaters, and then you can reuse and recycle those leftovers to create something really unique, one of a kind, and special. So I hope you love knitting this modular style blanket. This is a single pattern on Ravelry and Westknits.com, or if you really want to explore that marled color story in other garments, you can get the Brioche Break ebook. So that contains all 6 patterns that are already out: cardigan, the sweater, the hat and cowl, and then also this big new blanket. And you could even have some cozy socks. So it's really fun to mix and marl, and hope you get experimental with your stash and transform it into this beautiful blanket.